One man's trash is Kendrick Lamar's treasure. Producers get their beats rejected all the time, but what you might not know is how Kendrick Lamar once used beats that other rappers threw in the trash and turned those beats into one of his best songs. What song am I talking about? Duckworth, the closing song on his album Damn, comprised of 3 different beats all made by Ninth Wonder.
Hail Mary, your marijuana times is hard. Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark.
And all 3 of the beats on this song were actually rejected by other rappers. It wasn't until Kendrick came along and used them that the beats finally came to life. So today let's talk about how this song came to be, how these beats were made, and the story behind who rejected each of these 3 beats. Now the part of the story that I find especially amazing is how way back before Kendrick became who he is today, even before he dropped his overly dedicated mixtape way back in 2010, he attempted to get Ninth Wonder's attention, asking Ninth to bless him with a beat. And as per Ninth Wonder, the producer of Duckworth, he didn't even see the tweet at this time. And what makes this story even weirder is that after Kendrick tried to tweet Ninth, they randomly happened to meet each other for the first time the day after this tweet. It's just weird how things work out. So after they meet, years go by, Kendrick drops a few seminal albums, no big deal, and eventually Kendrick reaches out to Ninth saying that they should finally work with each other on Kendrick's album. Ninth Wonder pays him a visit, plays him a bunch of beats, and this is how Duckworth was born. But like I mentioned, the irony is that the 3 beats on this song were actually rejected by other rappers, very prominent ones in fact. So let's start with the first beat that was used in the song and break it down and then talk about who rejected it.
Time inside the Nicholson Garden projects, the object was the process and digest poverty's dialect.
This beat was made by using this sample here. Now this sample has been used before, in a pretty big song in fact, and Ninth knew this going in.
Ludacris used this for Splash Waterfalls. The same sample. Now I'm thinking, okay, I have to flip it.
This is the song he was referring to.
They want it nice and slow, kiss them from head to toe, relax and let it go. Say it.
So here's what Ninth Wonder does with his beat. First, he takes the sample and makes an incredible amount of chops. The beat starts with Ninth chopping on the bells in this intro, giving him more control over the rhythm that he wants to create. So for the first bar, we have this highly musical piece. Then Ninth transitions into this back and forth between 2 chops where the vocal and instrumentation underneath hold the same note, reducing how musical the beat becomes. By doing this, the beat doesn't become overly busy and unusable for a rapper. Every once in a while, he throws in a new chop to keep the beat from becoming too monotonous and repetitive. He does this by finding 2 different chops where the vocal and the instrument change notes. And from here, Ninth could have just looped this around and made this a 4-bar loop, but he instead creates even more to turn this into an 8-bar loop. It's just really impressive what he does here. And notice what he does at the start of the second half of this loop. He finds a different section of the sample with similar music underneath, but with something different happening on top, helping the beat sound a little bit more cohesive, but also varied. I'll play both sections back to back so you can hear it, and this time just focus on the female singing underneath. From here, he creates another segment where we have that back and forth again. But for the final 2 bars, he introduces some more musicality with some new chops, which then leads to another flat, more consistent segment to close out the loop.
Darling, I'm telling you one change.
Now, as you heard, this part of the beat just sounds like a mess if we just listen to the sample. But take a listen to how much better this exact same segment sounds once we bring in the drums and the bass line.
Darling, I'm telling you one change.
And this is why I often say don't worry about getting your samples to be absolutely perfect and having every single micro chop dialed in. Oftentimes these issues get masked by using your other accompanying sounds anyways. Overall though, great beat, so let's talk about who rejected it. It was actually a fellow West Coast artist who was working on their album at the same time. Here's Ninth retelling the story.
I made that beat for Game. I wanted him to take it because he would say I was working on a documentary too. So I made it for him.
So this beat was originally supposed to go to the Game for the documentary too, but that didn't work out, so Kendrick ends up with it and uses it for the first beat on Duckworth. By the way, some fun trivia, Ninth also reveals what the original song title was for Duckworth, which I thought was pretty funny.
The song was called Life is Like a Box of Chicken.
That's a delicious sounding song. Anyways, let's talk about the second beat on Duckworth.
Had a couple of shooters caught a murder case. Fingerprints on the gun, they're assuming, but witnesses couldn't prove it.
Which uses this 70 prog rock sample. This beat is a bit more straightforward. Most of the chops are sequential, as you can see. What's interesting though is that this part of the sample gets skipped over. If I had to guess, it might be because of how busy it is, making the beat more unwrappable if it were included. Ninth also does a great job of creating his own bass line. You'll notice the part of the sample where it starts to get a little bit busier with more chops, and you can see Ninth omits adding a bass line to this section to create more openness. And that's pretty much it for this beat. And the rapper who rejected this beat, well, here's Ninth Wonder again.
The second beat I made for Common.
It was Common, who the year before put out his own album, Black America Again. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether this is the album that Ninth made this beat for, but the timing does seem to add up. And now for the third and final beat in Duckworth.
Crooked cops told Anthony he should kick it. He brushed him off and walked back to the Kentucky Fried Chicken. See at this chicken spot.
So this time, Ninth uses a more contemporary sample. Notice the year that this came out.
Out over the edge of time.
Proof that you don't need to dig in 70s soul crates if you want to make soulful beats. So here's how this beat was made. Interestingly, it's actually structured more similar to the first beat. Here the beat starts off with this highly musical phrase from the sample.
Out over the edge of time.
And then we go into the next part that flattens out, where Ninth chops up this section of the sample here, and creates chops on these guitar licks to create a more neutral monotone part of the beat, just like the first beat. And this beat also has some phenomenal drum work to go along with it, where Ninth creates a unique pattern here. We start off with something more straightforward in the beginning. But as the beat develops, Ninth decides to switch it up and place these kicks back to back and not have any snares play in this section. And he also continually drops the drums throughout as well. Just some really cool structuring to this beat. Now for the final reveal, who rejected this beat?
The second and third beat I made for Common, but he didn't take those either.
That's right, it was Common again. Common seems to have a history of rejecting beats that other people love. Earlier I did a video on Kanye beats that rappers rejected, and there were plenty of stories of Common rejecting a lot of Kanye beats as well. If you want to check out that video, by the way, it is next to me. But yeah, this is how Duckworth was made. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Comment down below if you did. Let me know which of these three beats was your favorite. Like and subscribe. Click the video next to me if you haven't watched this one already. But if you don't feel like watching it, all good, and hopefully I see you next week. Bye bye.